Good morning, James Chapman.
What's up, bro?
Hey, man, I'm out here. I'm out here trying to get it. We've made some changes with the company and some good positive changes. We got some agents coming on next month. One that you may know, Brandon Cobble.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Very
He's
good.
coming back onto the team, not as an ISA, but as an agent. So that's super cool to see.
Very cool. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
So, it's cool to see how a company and how you as a person and as a company can have an impact on somebody's life, and you didn't actually see the extent of the impact necessarily while they were there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, man, I'll tell you, everybody just missed out because Addison and I, a lot of times we're playing catch up. It's before the podcast starts. So we get on here and kind of just talk a little shit about, what's going on in life and everything. Man, both got just so fired up and just how ridiculous some things are, how great some things are. First off, I want to say I had no idea. All right. Addison's behind the scenes on this thing. Look, if the only reason this podcast happens, period, is because of Addison Corbin. Flat out. He makes all this stuff come together. He keeps me on track with these things. Like, he's just the man. He's disciplined on this podcast. He's a whole reason it existed from day one. So, but I had no idea how much this podcast has grown, how many people are actually listening to this to a month. And I got to tell you, like, number one, it absolutely humbles me. It surprises the shit out of me. And it just makes me very thankful. To that, I'm going to make sure that I always continue to be absolutely 100% in what is going on with the day. This podcast, to me, I was trying to frame it up to somebody the other day, really has become more of a show in the sense that you're basically seeing week to week what we're going through and what we're dealing with here as you're putting it. And hopefully you pick up some good nuggets. Hopefully you pick up some things and go, man, James is a dumbass on that. I'm definitely not going to do it. Right. Or you're screaming at the podcast saying, hey, dude, it's obvious as shit. This is what you should do. Right. Like, I get it. We're in this together. So I may not know each and every one of y'all's experience that are listening to this, but man, I feel for you. I want to send positive energy your way. Like, continue to drive and go forward. I've been in this game 20 fucking years now. All right. God, how many years is 12 years. I'm coming up on 12 years as an owner of an agency. All right. So running my own show. And God, man, this week right now, I feel like I'm fucking week one, day one with some of the bullshit I'm dealing with. Like, I'm getting my ass kicked, Addison. Like, I mean, bad. Like, I literally stopped putting out a fire to jump on this podcast. I mean, I got a shit show waiting on me as soon as I get off this thing. I mean, it's a clusterfuck like nobody's business. So we had a big shakeup over here with some staffing and stuff. And man, I tell you, it just made me realize how petty and stupid things can be. And, I realize it doesn't matter what generation somebody's from. We live in a weak ass world these days. Fucking weak, man. People that can't even take truths and apply them and then look at how, I mean, we're soft. I mean, I know there's areas where I'm fucking soft. And there's a lot of folks a lot softer than me. It blows my mind how sensitive people are to shit. I mean, you agree with that?
110%. And it's something that I've always been on the other side of it, where it's like, man, people aren't that soft. People just say these things, whatever. Every generation sees the flaws in the other.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very, very interesting to see a majority of people not willing to do, one, hard things, two, actually take criticism, three, not willing to actually be able to process things that are happening in real life, right? Going back to what we talked about a few months ago or a few weeks ago was feelings are not facts, right? Just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean that that's real, right? And people have a hard time with reality and feelings, right? And that's something that I've begun to start to see
Yeah.
in a lot of different manners. I mean, we had a conversation before this, like you mentioned, that
Mhm.
it blows my mind that some people are certain ways and they would rather go through something in a different manner to stay away from confrontation.
Yeah, they're so weak and soft. Like the idea of something being uncomfortable. That's what kills me. Like, I get it's uncomfortable. There's a lot of shit I do all the time that's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. The difference is, do you fucking do it anyways?
Yeah.
And like, I've read something the other day. It was weird to me because they said it was a whole Gen X thing or something. Once again, classing a whole generation, just like they did with millennials. Now they pick on Gen X. But it was, God, what was the term they used? Where it's this new trend where basically you bullshit through your Mondays. What was it? It's called something like, um, No Motivation Monday or something like that. I can't remember what it was called, but basically where the whole trend is to show how much you can bullshit through your Mondays and not actually work while you're at work. And when I saw that, number one, I was like, that class in this is Gen X. That shit's been around since I've joined the workforce, man. Like since I've been employed, earning a paycheck, there's been plenty of people, all kinds of generations that do that shit. So I was like, man, I really wouldn't classify them. But the second part to that is that they like they were touting this as such a bad thing. Number one, they're just being honest about the shit that's always been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And back to that, if you're not that person, which if you're listening to this, there's no way you're that person if you're listening to this. I'm just being real. Like you won't waste your time listening to us talking about being motivated and going hard.
That's right.
Good. Once again, good. I love the fact that they talked about, now I'm on the very end, the very beginning of the millennial generation, right? And they have trashed millennials forever. Good. Good. Let everybody else be over here. I wish there was more that were not that good. Honestly. Like, and then I'm over here and it makes me stand out. And then I can outwork them. Like, and I can outrun them and I can outpace them in every fucking way. Good. Thank God. I hope if I was working a corporate job or something and everybody else in my department was totally half-assing Mondays, that should fire my ass up to freaking crank on it so I can stand out. Like they just gave you a huge advantage. Don't waste that shit. Stand out now. Step up. Provide better service. Provide better information. Walk in there, look the boss in the eyes, talk to them, give them feedback on what's going right, what's going wrong. Like you have an opportunity. Like especially during all the chaos. Like take advantage of that shit, man. Like this is your opportunity. This is separation season, as they like to say.
Yeah.
Like take advantage of that shit. Go fucking win.
And there's something to that. I saw Dana White was on like a podcast or something, right? Are you familiar with who Dana White is?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And he was saying something along the lines of the generation is off. Is it Gen Z or Gen X?
I don't know.
Whatever.
The youngins.
The one before us or
Yeah.
after us. And he was saying something along the lines of, you have a choice to be a savage or to be soft, right? And if you choose to go down the savage route, there are so many soft people that are not willing to do certain things inside of their careers, inside of their job, whatever it might be. If you are a savage, you will be nothing but at the top of the top when it gets down the line. Because people who are above you, the ones who are running companies, the ones who are the higher realm of things, they're the ones that are going to put you on the board because they see it, right? And your competition right now is not the same as it was,
Yeah.
right? As I've got one of these guys here now, right? He's a younger cat. He's 18 or 19. Absolutely just amazing kid. He works and he does not stop,
Yeah.
right? Because he's got that hunger, he's got that drive, some people would say he's got that dog in him,
Yeah.
right? And it's just you don't see that too often, but when you do, you've got to mold that. Like you've
Yeah.
got to keep the fire going.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in outpace, man. And there's simple ways to do it. Now let's clarify a few things. Talking about being a savage. Like, but that doesn't mean you walk around an asshole and you chew up at people and spit them out. Like you are somebody that people want on the team. Like they want you on the team. And not only when they want you on the team, they're looking to you for direction. That's who you want to be. Right. Now you got to lace up and be fucking just intense and insane and hard. Then you got to do that when you got to do it. But it doesn't mean you walk around just slaying motherfuckers, you know?
As fun as that would be.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's still a balance there, you know? Like you still really at the end of the day, a lot here. I continue to push team cohesion. And part of that is I want my team more accountable to each other than they are to me. It's easy for me to walk over there and say, hey, this is a little off, or you should do it this way. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got it. On it. Okay, cool. Thank you. And I appreciate that. Right. And I show mutual respect back. But truthfully, what I want more than anything is for another team member that has no seniority to be able to walk over and go, hey, Addison, like, man, you did this. I was expecting this, but you didn't get it where it needs to go. Or, hey, you did this wrong. And they're like, oh, shit, Roger that. Like, I got it. I'm going to tune it up right now and I'll let you know. Right. Thanks for the feedback. They're more worried about letting each other down. That's a killer team, man. That's a team that will absolutely go out there and dominate, when there's accountability across. We got a lot of weak ass motherfuckers that, they can't even think somebody's attacking them when they just try to give them solid feedback. Because they believe in the mission of what they're doing. If you're driving that in at your company, they believe in how they're going forward. They believe there's a higher purpose other than just showing up and clocking the fuck in and just being here, right? They realize they can make a difference. And yeah, I'm talking about fucking insurance when I'm saying that. And that's the goal of what we do. Because there's a lot of other companies out there that don't want to be in the office today. The people don't give a shit about their clients. They don't care what it is. They're just going to try to throw this low number out, cut stuff out. Like we're fighting that daily, right? That's why everybody should be doing business with us. That's why we believe it. Well, then we got to stand behind that. We can't just talk that, have that fucking anthem and not deliver on it, right? So, and being accountable to each other through that makes the difference.
That's it. There's something to the team aspect, but you've got to be a team player. Like you've got to be. You can be a team leader, right? You can go after it and you can make sure that things are getting done and going through that process. But there's something to being a team player and understanding that there is accountability up and down the chain, left, right, and center.
Yep.
Right? And there's a confusion that happens where people feel like they can't address something because you're higher up or you've been there longer or whatever it may be. Some people have that pullback, and being able to have a whole team culture that it is very much that same thing where it's, hey, I'm noticing that you are, not making the calls that you're supposed to be making. I noticed that you're in there on your phone or whatever it is. You've got to be able to call each other out.
Yeah.
You've got to.
Yeah.
And by stepping around that, you are actually not helping anybody.
Yeah. You're padding the walls.
Yeah. And there was something that I saw this morning. And it was about, there's a difference in being polite and being passive. Whereas a lot of people get the confusion of being passive as being polite. And on a team, that's not the case.
Yeah.
You want that that Michael Jordan, who is an absolute dog and is willing to go after you and chew you out
Yeah.
because he knows what it takes,
Yeah.
right? And if you're slacking, you're slacking.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
the feedback.
Yeah. That's happened a couple times here. I try to avoid that. I don't like losing my cool. I just don't, because I felt like then I'm losing control. It's truth.
It is true.
Yeah. But there is a few times I totally lost my cool and came back. It's just like, God, I expect so much more from you. Like, I'm depending on you. I know what you're capable of. So you totally mailed this shit in. And it disappoints me because I know you're so much better than this. And I don't know why, like, you didn't just own it and step up. You're allowed to have off days, but you need to look me in the face and tell me you're having a fucking off day. I respect that. I got off days too, man. But I own that shit when I'm having an off day. Like, I don't just try to pass it under the radar, go sit around with my thumb up my ass. That's what a professional does. A professional shows up when they're feeling it, not. Because if you think you're just going to achieve it on the days that you just wake up and it's just a perfect day and your spouse is just perfect to you, or the kids are just perfect, and the drive-through line for your fucking coffee, your little mocha bullshit is like, oh, just perfect, and it comes fast, and and you're just on fire that day, you think that's the day you're going to win? No, motherfucker. That's the day that you're just maybe going to get a little more effort out of yourself. What you got to do is you got to show up every day. Show up every day, even when you're not feeling it. At least get some shit done. So when you are on fire and you're in that perfect zone, you absolutely dominate it. When I come in and it's that day, I'm just vibrating with energy. And I know I'll literally walk in, I'll fucking claim it. I'll be like, I'm about to destroy my day. There ain't nothing going to stop me. And I'm that confident in it because I know I've been putting in the work every day. Even if it's not my best work, it won't be all that energy wasted on cleaning up and catching up from all the shit I never did and didn't put in the effort to do.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And that's the people you're competing against. And there's people who do it way better than I do. And guess what they do? They stomp my ass.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not even at least doing that, you're not even going to keep up.
Yeah. Consistency, success is on the other side of consistency, right? If you can come in, be disciplined, be motivated / not motivated, if you can be disciplined and enjoy what you're doing, you are going to, there's no stopping you because you are consistent in what you do. You're doing the correct things and you're not holding back on the things that you know that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then boom, that's the recipe for getting after it.
That's right. That's right.
So that's super interesting to kind of go into and to dive into where this has kind of flowed from, the original conversation that we had prior to the podcast to now, and seeing it kind of flow into this, where it's, you just have to do the things that are, difficult, uncomfortable, or you don't want to do, right? That's the recipe of getting things done, right? Because if not, if you fall into that comfortable category, how much of a growth are you doing as a human being?
You're sitting idle, you're stagnant, like pond water.
Yeah. That's the second time that I've heard pond water. But that's something that is something that can be cultivated and grown and actually come from nothing to something by having this recipe of success.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Put the two together, be consistent, do the shit that's tough or you don't want to do. And on the other side of that comes progression. It comes, positive energy. Like there's so much that comes from that.
Yeah.
Being in real estate, like if you don't make the calls, you don't get the results. If you don't make the contacts, you don't get the results, period. And something that I've started to realize is that if you are not doing that, if you have zero business, if you have nothing closing coming up, you are unemployed.
Yeah, dude, that's a really good point.
You are unemployed and it's by choice.
Yeah.
And that's what fucking pisses me off.
Yeah.
if I got somebody coming in here that has nothing going on, it's
Yeah.
because you chose to
Mhm.
do other things than to do what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And your choice to be unemployed will not
Mhm.
affect what we have going on.
Yeah.
And I've let that many times in the past, let that affect me to where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I got to get this person going. I got to do this, which
Yeah.
then pulls me out of the game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you
Your
choose,
job's to provide opportunity. And
right?
that's it. Like, can I provide opportunity? Can I always make the opportunity better? Of course. And you should stay focused on that. But it's like, okay, if I've laid out opportunity, are you grasping it? Like, are you reaching down, grabbing that son bitch by the balls and running with it?
Yeah.
I
That's
really like that. Like self-unemployed, even though they're showing up for a job every day. Holy fuck.
yeah.
God. Imagine that. But you know what? All this being said, truth be told, what you need to do is you need to look yourself in the mirror. And if any of this applies to you, you go, man, yeah, I am off. I am this. And you already know what you need to do. Great. Phenomenal. Good for you. If you don't, like, take a second, look in the fucking mirror at yourself. It's weird, but do it. I've done this many times. Go in the bathroom, shut the door, look yourself in the mirror, and actually have a conversation and stare yourself in the eyes. Because let me tell you, you'll know if you're full of shit. You'll know if you're just feeding a line because you got to verbalize that. You can't just let it bounce around in your head. You can't tell the friend that says, oh, how's things going? Oh, they're great, right? Or your fucking social media life that you try to make look all perfect. All that bullshit's gone. Look yourself in the eyes and tell yourself the truth. What do you want? Decide what you want and then do that. You know, if you don't want the hustle and grind and all that, that's cool. That's fine. Just don't be a little whiny bitch. Make a decision and do it. End of the day, if you can just make a decision, that's step number one. Just make a decision on what you want. And then if you say that's what you want, then go fucking do it. And you are going to fail. You are going to hit a ton of roadblocks. I do it all the time. I'll fail constantly and look for this one little tiny win that I can just ball that motherfucker up and put it in. And I just feel good about it. The rest of the place can be burning down. I'm going to tell you right now, I feel really good about this podcast. It's fired me the fuck up today. I got a shit show out there. I'm feeling good about this. I'll fucking take that.
That's it, dude. And being once you go through that recipe of kind of building out the success for your future, there's
Mm-hmm.
things that come into play, right? You are put into places, you are put into opportunities that force you to grow. And something that James and I have both done at this point we've hired coaches, right? Someone who's a little bit ahead of us, who understands what's going on, who kind of runs that behind the scenes of seeing outside the picture and looking in, which will force you to see things in a different light than you've never seen it. There are points that I have now gone back to my childhood and realized of these things that happened to me or that have I've gone through at some point in my life have cultivated the person in front of me, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? There are things that I have found out personally of like I have a hard time with verbal confrontation,
Mm-hmm.
verbally calling somebody out that I've had in
Yeah.
the past, just due to the fact that I've seen verbal confrontation and I don't like it. And
Yeah.
it caused me as a kid to kind of pull back.
Yeah.
And I go straight to that as an adult, used to go straight to that as an adult of seeing like, oh, I've seen verbal confrontation. I see how it turns out. I don't like that. So I don't do it. Now realizing as a leader and as a company owner that by me moving around that, trying to be nice and gentle, going back to the polite passive, I was taking a passive route with my employees, which is very fucking confusing and very difficult to follow,
Mm-hmm.
and is not doing anything for myself nor the other person.
Yeah.
And I would have never seen that without the growth that I've had to do with being uncomfortable and being in positions that opened up doors from being consistent, from being and doing the things that are uncomfortable, like going down that road of like, what the fuck happened as a kid that caused
Yeah.
me to whatever.
Yeah.
So just interesting, dude. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
So Be willing to go down that road.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Analyze it. Ed Milet said it great. You ever thought about why you think the way you think? And it was really cool. Kind of opened me up like, no, I don't. A lot of times I'm just on fucking autopilot doing what I do. Well, stop and engage in that. There's 100 ways to splice it. First off, make a decision on what you want. Be real with yourself, and then go after that, whatever it may be. I was thinking about it this morning, man, driving to work. Like, I got to tell you, I've worked some of the hardest I've ever worked right now, and stressing about things and trying to fix things that I need to fix. Like some of the hardest work I've put in. I have never been so overloaded. And I was driving into work this morning. I was like, fuck, man, I'm fucking tired. I mean, I was telling myself this. It's like, damn, I'm tired. Like, is this what I want my life to be? Like this kind of bullshit that I'm just dealing with? And then I gave myself a reality check. I felt sorry for myself, right? Oh, poor, pitiful James. Okay. Got it so bad, even though he put himself in this position. And I was like, all right, I'm done feeling sorry for myself. Here's the opportunity in front of me. What do I want? And do I want my life to be like this? And I was like, God, like what? Like, I feel so like, what if this, like, I even went into the thought of like, God, man, I got so much on me. Like, what if this is taking years off my life? I literally had that thought this morning, dude. I was like, what if this is taking fucking years off my life? And I realized, like, in 100 years, nobody will give a fuck anyways. I'll be dead either way. So who gives a fuck? Like, what if it does? Okay. So what was 5 more years of me being a pussy and being comfortable? Who cares? Like, fucking dig in, get it. Like, if I say this is what I want, then fucking get it. You know what I mean? Get after it, get it done. Because me sitting there being a little bitch about it ain't going to help get it anywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
It's interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I do have a question. Was that during your 15 minutes?
No, it was in my drive. But I didn't have my 15 minutes this morning because I slept in like a little bitch.
Dude, I did too. I
slept in like a bitch this morning.
I told myself I was sleeping in.
I slept in till 6 this morning. But I've been on it. I've been on my 15 minutes and been thinking, but it's weird where my mind goes with stuff. And I really haven't dialed it in yet, but I'm just doing it. It's just like, okay, hey, I say this is part of the process. I'm just doing it.
Yep. And that's 100% what it is. It's part of the process. Your brain's going to go in some weird joints off in the whatever left field. And you're like, what? And then over time, it starts getting a little bit more focused of like, I can think
it's like building a muscle, man. Cause like I'm sitting there and then my mind will be on something. I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to be doing like deep thought right now. I'm like, nah, I mean,
no, it's not
the deep thought right now. My mind's just kind of wandering. Let it fucking wander.
Yeah.
So
you can get to the point where you kind of let those thoughts go and then kind of focus on whatever. And then, what it just allows it to just process information. And that's what the goal is. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're floating off into, man, I wonder if that frame behind James is, centered or not. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's also on the other thing of like, man, I wonder if I did more woodwork or whatever, whatever happens, but that's all part of the process.
Yeah.
So that's super cool, dude. I'm proud of you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for staying on my ass about it because I wasn't living up to that.
Yeah. I've gotten to the point where I'm realizing that I was not holding people accountable that I care about certain things. So
well, it takes a certain person to be able to do that because I'll give good advice, but I will not follow up. Yeah. And I that's a bad habit of mine, right? I say, hey, I'm here for you. You need anything, let me know. But do I ever follow up? No. Like, so you're very good at that. And it's very much appreciated.
Getting good at it. Getting better.
Well, I appreciate how good you currently are at it. How about
appreciate that?
All right.
Hey,
let's cut them loose. Let's let them go get after it.
Yep. Let's loosen this baby up. So with all that being said, be willing to go down the paths that are a little bit less traveled, but also a little bit harder to go through. Be willing to climb that mountain, run up that bitch. Number 2, thank you for listening. We have grown this thing to something that is super cool to see. We're trying to hit 100K in a month. We've got some time. So guess what?
We got some room for improvement, don't we?
We have some room for improvement, but we're getting closer. And that's the biggest point. And that can't be done without the people who are listening, sharing, and following. And I get stuff every now and then from my Instagram where it's people just like sending me stuff about like this point in the podcast, James sounded like a goofball. And then this point in the podcast, Addison sounded like a complete goof on Sounded like he was about to run down Ricky Bobby. So it's like certain things that kind of are starting to come through, and it's super cool to see that grow and to see the lives that we impact on a small level, large level, or medium level. Super cool to see. We appreciate you. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you sharing. And with all that being said, we're going to keep bringing the heat. Don't forget to go check out our sponsors, Jocko Fuel and Origin USA. When you get to checkout, put in code GRIND10, GRIND 10 at checkout. Save yourself 10% off. With that being said, James,
Grind route.